Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The tension in Genoa City was really high as the sun shone through the blinds in Kyle's living room. It made shadows on the floor and the furniture. This showed how upset everyone was feeling inside. Claire went to Kyle's apartment that morning. She was hoping something good would happen. She was still feeling sad about all the bad things that had been happening in her life. A lot of things had happened to her in the few weeks. Each time she felt like she was falling apart. She was trying to stay strong and hold everything together. Claire's life was like a puzzle with lots of pieces that did not fit together well. She was trying to make sense of everything. The situation with Kyle and Claire was very uncertain. Kyle's apartment was usually a place to be. That day it felt different. Claire was nervous about what would happen. She thought she knew what was going on with her Kyle, and all the families and secrets and lies that were around them. She was not ready for what happened next. Kyle was really quiet that morning. He was not himself. He was serious. That made Claire feel weird. She felt like something was going to happen. She was not sure what. She was excited and scared at the time. Kyle and the things that were happening with him and her were making her feel this way. He asked her to sit down. She did not feel the usual friendliness from him. Instead, she felt a tension that made her chest feel tight. She could barely breathe. They sat across from each other. It was very quiet. The silence went on for long that her mind started thinking about all the things that could be wrong. Was he mad at her? Was he hurt? Was something even worse happening? Was he going to ruin the relationship they had worked hard to build? She thought about all these things. She felt really anxious. The connection between them was already fragile. She did not want it to break. Her eyes kept moving to the pictures on the shelves around Kyle. These were photos of people laughing and having a good time. They showed moments that were frozen in time. These pictures did not match the heavy feeling that was in the room now. Kyle's eyes were different. They looked like a big storm was inside him. His eyes were staring at Claire and would not look away. This made Claire feel like she was all alone and had no secrets. She felt like Kyle could see all the things she was afraid of and all the things that made her feel weak. Claire had not felt this way in a long time. It was like Kyle could see right through her. She did not like it. The pictures of times just made things feel worse because Kyle's eyes were so serious. Claire felt like she was standing there with nothing to hide behind. Kyle's eyes were still staring at her. This made her feel very uncomfortable. He said her name. It felt heavy, like something was pushing down on her chest. The sound of her name just hung in the air like a warning that something bad was going to happen. Then he spoke in a voice, but he meant what he said. He told her, "I can't forgive you." Those words were simple. They hurt her a lot. They were like a storm that destroyed the walls she had built around her heart to protect herself. The relationship between them was already weak. Now those words made it even weaker. He said, "I can't forgive you." And it was like he was telling her that things would never be the same again. The words, "I can't forgive you," kept echoing in her mind, reminding her of the pain she was feeling. Time much came to a standstill as the whole world seemed to shrink down to just that one moment. Claire felt this really sharp pain of being betrayed. It was mixed up with a strong feeling of sadness that was growing inside her chest. The room around her got all fuzzy, and the people she cared about, like her friends and family, they all seemed to disappear. All that was left was what Kyle had just said. It was a harsh truth and it felt cold and unfeeling. Claire felt like everything else had just faded away, leaving her with Kyle's words. The sadness she felt was like a wave that was rising up, and it was all because of what Kyle had said. Her hands shook badly as she grabbed the edge of the sofa. She needed something to hold on to because everything felt weird and scary. Her mind was over the place, thinking about all the times they talked, all the times they laughed, all the special moments they had together. She was trying really hard to find a reason, something that would make her feel better, something that would make her think she was wrong, that they could still be together. The woman's thoughts were stuck on the memories of her, the person she loved, hoping to find a way to make things okay again. Those 5 words really got to her. They were clear as day. She could not ignore them. The words cut into her life and made her feel sick to her stomach. Her eyes started to tear up. She could not stop crying. All the bad things that happened in the past came back to her. The hurt and the fights. And the times they made up, it all came flooding back. Each bad memory reminded her that love can be broken in a second no matter how strong it is. The years of hurt and misunderstandings were still fresh in her mind. Love can be very painful even when it is real. Those 5 words made her remember all the times things went wrong. The first tear fell down her cheek. She felt like the ground was moving under her feet. This made her feel like she was hanging in the air. The past, the present, and the future all came together in a sad way. Memories of things she wanted to forget came back to her. The happy moments now felt sad because of what she lost. The laughter that used to make her feel warm now sounded mean, reminding her of what she could never have. Memories of laughter and joy and memories of loss. All these memories of her life were now mixed up with the pain she felt. The pain of loss and the pain of remembering times, these things were all mixed up together in a sad way, and this was really hard for her. She thought about the nights they shared secrets, the promises they made in the dark, and how they were open with each other in those hugs. Now all of that seems to mean nothing because of what Kyle said. She had trouble breathing as she tried to understand how the man standing in front of her could be the man she thought she knew. The man who used to make her feel safe now makes her feel a lot of pain. She could not understand how Kyle could do this to her. It made her think about Kyle and how he changed. Kyle was someone she loved. Now Kyle is someone who hurts her. The apartment looked really weird to her now. It was modern and nice. It felt cold. Everything in the apartment seemed to be watching her. The apartment was quiet and still, like it was waiting for something to happen. Every surface in the apartment showed her that her life was falling apart. As she tried to calm down, she kept crying. The tears just would not stop. Each tear showed how sad she was. She was crying because she was hurt much. She wanted someone to understand her. Nobody did. The apartment was still quiet. She was still crying. The tears were like a message. Nobody was listening to her. The apartment, with all its things, felt empty and quiet, like it was not even her home anymore. Kyle just stood there not saying a thing. He looked really sad. He did not show it. Claire had to deal with her feelings by herself. She felt alone and it was hard for her. The place that used to make her feel safe now felt empty and scary. Kyle remained steadfast, his face a mask of regret. Claire felt the weight of being alone. It was hard for her to handle. The space around her that used to be comfortable now felt like an empty space where she felt vulnerable and unwanted. Kyle's silence made everything feel worse. Claire had to navigate her emotions. It was not easy for her. Her mind went back and forth between not believing it and knowing it was true. It was very hard for her to accept what he said. Every part of her did not want to believe it. He sounded very sure of himself and would not change his mind. She wanted to talk to him to make things okay between them again. She could not say anything. The sadness she felt was too much to put into words. In that silence, which was only broken by her soft crying, she understood what had really happened. Kyle's heart was closed to her. No matter what she said or did, it would not change. She knew that nothing could make Kyle's heart open up to her again. The truth was that Kyle's heart was closed to her, and it was not going to change no matter what explanation she gave, or what sorry she said. Kyle's heart was closed to her. That was it. The emotional toll was really hard to deal with. It was like a wave that just kept coming and coming, and it felt like it was going to overwhelm her at any moment. But with all the sadness, there was one thing that was very clear. She would have to deal with the fact that he was not going to be there anymore. She would have to figure out how to live her life without him. That was going to be very tough. The road ahead of her was going to be very long and hard. She would have to be sad for a while. She would have to think a lot about what happened. She would have to try hard to find herself again because everything she thought she knew about her life was now broken. Her expectations and hopes were. She would have to start all over again to find out who she was and what she wanted. The emotional toll was still very hard to deal with. It would take a lot of time and effort to get through it. As she sat there, tears falling down her face, her body shaking with sadness and shock, the world outside just kept going, not knowing what had happened in her apartment. The apartment was quiet. She was very upset. She felt sad and shocked. Could not believe what was happening. The world outside was moving. Everything had stopped for her. It was in that quiet devastation that Claire's resilience, long tested by the relentless dramas of Genoa City, would be called upon in ways she had never imagined, forcing her to confront not just the heartbreak inflicted by those 5 devastating words, but the broader truths about love, betrayal, and the enduring complexity of human relationships. The room felt incredibly heavy as Claire sank further into the lounge, her body feeling like it had been drained of energy, each muscle counted down by grief she couldn't articulate. Kyle's words, though brief, had sculpted an implacable path of desolation through her heart, leaving behind jagged edges that sounded insolvable to smooth. She allowed. Of all the times they had participated horselaugh, the transitory moments of joy that had felt so palpable, so real, and yet now sounded nearly cruelly illusory in the wake of this unforeseen fracture. Her mind inevitably wandered back to the earlier days, when their connection had been conditional but filled with pledge, a delicate interplay of magnet, trust and vulnerability that had grown into commodity she had dared to call love. Each memory now felt double-edged, beautiful in recollection but stoned by the consummation that it might have been nothing further than a mirage, a transitory fantasy in a megacity erected on facades and transitory commitment. She flashed back the way Kyle used to smile at her, how his presence could make her forget the troubles that constantly agonized her life. Indeed, if only for a moment, a temporary reprieve in a world that frequently sounded determined to break her down. Those smiles now felt like riding echoes, monuments of a warmth that had been withdrawn without explanation, leaving her stranded in a cold reality she hadn't been prepared to face. She allowed. Of all the subtle gestures, the quiet solace, the moments she had believed indicated permanence, and now questioned if she had ever truly understood him, or if he'd understood her. Mistrustfulness eroded at her like a grim current, feeding the raw pang in her casket with questions she had no answers to, every possibility acting contemporaneously presumptive and insolvable. The notion that she might no way again feel the safety she had formerly associated with Kyle's presence made her casket constrict sorrowfully, a miserliness that sounded to grow with every passing second, making it delicate to breathe, delicate to suppose, delicate to attune the world she knew with the one she now set up herself inhabiting. She closed her eyes, trying to shut out the images of him sitting across from her, the clarity and futurity in his aspect, the calm yet unyielding tone that had carried the words she couldn't unhear. But indeed in the darkness behind her eyelids, Kyle's presence dallied like an unforgettable mark, hanging every corner of her mind. Her studies entwined, not just around the heartache itself, but around the counter-accusations, what this meant for her life, for the fragile stability she had fought so hard to maintain in a megacity where faithfulness shifted as snappily as fortunes. She realized, with a sickening clarity, that she had allowed herself to become emotionally dependent on him in ways that left her vulnerable, and now, in the absence of his support, she felt naked against the currents of her own feelings, a solitary figure teetering on the edge of despair. Memories of previous backstabbings and bummers surged suddenly, intertwining with the present pain in a disorienting blur that made her feel as if she had been blindsided not just by Kyle, but by the merciless nature of life in Genoa City itself. She recalled once moments of insulation, times when musketeers had let her down, when she had plotted to navigate the unfaithful waters of family politics and commercial maneuvering, and she realized that each of these moments had prepared her, in some cruelly ironic way, to face the desolation wrought by these 5 words. Yet indeed with this mindfulness, the raw sting of particular rejection was unlike anything she had endured before. It was intimate and piercing, a crack that no quantum of previous experience could have invested her against. Her studies began to drift toward the broader environment of her life, the way Kyle's rejection wasn't an insulated event but bone that would ripple across every relationship and decision she had cultivated in recent times. She allowed. Of the complicated alliances within the Newman and Abbott families, the web of battles, Gemütlichkeit and backstabbings that had defined her actuality, and the consummation struck her that every commerce was now invested with new stakes. How would this fracture with Kyle affect her standing within the circles of influence she had painstakingly navigated? Could she face Kane, Phyllis, and other crucial players with the same countenance, knowing that the foundation of trust she had reckoned on with Kyle was irreparably broken? The query eroded at her, a patient turnabout beneath the raw grief she felt, adding layers of anxiety to a heartache formerly so acute it sounded to consume her entirely. Each implicit script she envisaged carried with it the weight of imagined judgment, the stitch of anticipated disappointment, and the loneliness of navigating the fallout largely on her own. She realized, with a sense of grim ineluctability, that indeed as she mourned this loss, she'd need to summon a adaptability she didn't yet feel she held, to defy not just her particular pain but the broader consequences that would inescapably waterfall from this intimate rupture. And yet, indeed, in the midst of this emotional chaos, fractions of clarity began to crop. As the gashes continued to fall, Claire felt a slow, nearly inappreciable recognition that this moment, devastating as it was, represented a kind of reckoning she had long avoided. Kyle's words, for all their atrocity, forced her to defy trueness about herself she had skirted in the pursuit of love and connection. Her vulnerability, her tendency to calculate too heavily on others for emotional confirmation, and her enduring desire to find safety and certainty in a world that offered neither. These perceptively, painful though they were, handed a faint hint of commission, a seed of understanding that suggested she might yet survive this emotional whirlpool with her identity complete. But survival, she knew, would not be immediate, would not be gentle, and would not come without ongoing battle with the grief, disappointment, and wrathfulness that now curled within her like a living thing, demanding acknowledgement before it could be released. Her studies wandered to Kyle again, trying to attune the man she had loved with the bone, who had just cancelled the trust between them. She pondered the possibility that he'd reasons, that some internal sense drove his incapability to forgive, yet the study brought little comfort. However, it was now incontrovertibly tainted by the stark reality of rejection, the impossibility of returning to the closeness they had participated, if his love had ever was in the way she had imagined. The cerebral weight of that perceived failure pressed down with grim intensity, a suffocating force that made it delicate to suppose of anything beyond the immediate pain. She wondered if Kyle had always harbored this incapability to forgive, if it had been an excrescence she had simply overlooked, or if it had surfaced now as a response to events beyond her appreciation, and the query eroded at her relentlessly, each question unanswered, each possibility more painful than the last. In the midst of her despair, she came acutely apprehensive of the physical reality of her grief. Her muscles pained from pressure, her lungs burned with shallow, uneven breaths, and her hands quivered as she pressed them against her face, trying in vain to loil the endless inflow of gashes. Indeed, as her body betrayed her, her mind refused to yield, replaying the moment of Kyle's pronouncement over and over in a grim circle, each reiteration stropping the agony rather than dulling it. She recalled the precise tone of his voice, the slight curve that conveyed futurity, the way his eyes had met hers without recoiling, and she realized with a sinking clarity that there would be no retreat from this moment, no secret path back to the comfort and understanding she had formerly known. Every fiber of her being cried out for some form of explanation, some act of mercy that might allow her to soften the edges of this crack, yet the silence that followed his protestation remained unbroken, a merciless memorial that check would not come from him. Her studies shifted, nearly inevitably, to the future and the way life in Genoa City demanded adaptability, demanded maneuvering, and demanded a certain ruthlessness in the face of emotional desolation. She realized that while her immediate instinct was to coil inward, to surrender to grief, there was an inarguable necessity to continue moving, to engage with the world, and to defy the shifting geography of connections, alliances, and backstabbings that defined her actuality. The consummation was both intimidating and charging, a paradoxical emulsion of fear and determination that suggested at the depth of strength she might yet summon in response to this profound particular loss. Every memory of Kyle now carried a binary weight. The agreeableness of once moments mingled with the bitterness of treason, creating an emotional geography that was as beautiful as it was painful, as constructive as it was destructive. She flashed back his horse laugh, his gentle solace, the closeness they had participated, and varied them with the emptiness of his turn down to forgive. A stark ocean that underlined the vulnerability essential in mortal connection, and the fragility of love in a world governed by pride, and undetermined conflict. She allowed, of the life she had imagined with him, the plans, the participated dreams, the transitory expedients of stability, and felt the cruel ramifying of those imagined futures like a physical blow, one that left her stunning in its intensity and suffocating in its futurity. And yet, as the hours passed and the original shock began to give way to a raw, paining mindfulness, Claire began to understand the paradoxical nature of grief, heartache, and adaptability. Pain, she realized, could attend with understanding. Rejection could attend with sapience. Loss could attend with growth. The consummation was neither comforting nor conclusive, but it planted a seed of resoluteness amid the wreckage of her feelings, A fragile notion that while Kyle's 5 words had irrevocably altered the course of her life, they had cancelled her capacity for recovery, reinvention, or indeed unborn love. She sat there, girdled by the quiet hum of the megacity beyond her window, gashes still barring her cheeks, and began the slow, laborious process of reclaiming herself from the tidal surge of feelings Kyle had unleashed. Her studies were scattered yet determined, fractured yet coherent, a reflection of the inner fermentation that had always defined her, but now demanded a new form of clarity and tone possession. She understood in the deepest recesses of her heart that this heartache would not define her entirely. It would be a defining moment, yes, but also a gauntlet in which the adaptability, strength, and imagination that had always marked her character could crop further vividly than ever ahead. The trip ahead would be unfaithful, filled with lapses, moments of despair, and unanticipated challenges, but within the desolation lay the inarguable verity that she still held agency, that she still had the power to shape her life despite the rupture Kyle had wrought.